meteor, 3 times the size of Earth, is heading towards us in a collision course that will result in the extinction of all life on this planet. This just in? No, it's not.
Hello, listeners. It is 60,000,003 BC.
Just kidding. It's Dinosaurs A.D.
Hello, everyone. I am Shauna.
And I'm Jeremy. And this is Dinosaurs A.D., the podcast about dinosaurs.
And not just any dinosaurs. The show, Dinosaurs.
It's the show, Dinosaurs, on Disney. Available now. And so here we are to talk about it for you. We're assuming if you came to this podcast, you're interested in the show Dinosaurs. So you came to the right place.
And thankfully, you can now watch it on Disney+. Woot woot.
We kind of have some ideas for what we want to do here, but I think it'll become more structured over time. But initially, we just wanted to do a podcast about dinosaurs, and we wanted to kind of compare events in the show to the current state of the world.
Indeed. That's a pretty good way to describe it, I would say.
This show is somewhat fatalistic in its approach to how things are because it's about dinosaurs and kind of the world ending. So,
Right.
I think, spoilers, but I think that's the way a lot of people have been feeling recently, myself included. Kind of feels like the world's ending.
I mean, just look at the winter we've been having in Illinois right now. How often have we struggled to, if we do drive to work at the moment, like if you have to drive to work in the morning, how often have you actually had to like worry about whether or not the roads were bad?
We've not had much snow this year. What we have had is stuck for like 5 seconds.
Right? No sledding.
Nope, not at all.
Anyway.
In addition to that, we were going to go through episode by episode, starting with this one. And there are 4 seasons of this show. So I think, what was the total number of episodes? I have it written down here. Looks like there's 65 episodes.
Woo! So this is going to be, I foresee about a year and a half or close to it worth of podcast in our future.
Yep.
Something like that. Year and a quarter, I guess. Whatever. It's fine.
So we're in this for the long haul, I suppose.
Hopefully you are too. The show started in 1990 and ends in 1994 and takes place in 60,000,003 BC. It was a brainchild of Jim Henson back in 1988, where he pitched it originally to ABC, but then NBC picked it up. Or is it the other opposite?
I think, well, it did end up on ABC, who is now owned by Disney, which is why it's on Disney+.
Oh.
But I do believe it was originally for CBS.
Oh, interesting.
But yeah, this was one of the first, if not the first thing, major thing that was made with Jim Henson's name on it after he passed away. He had passed away the year before this debuted on television.
Which is, I think, interesting about how the whole series
it started in 1991, not 1990.
Oh.
They started filming in 1990.
Oh. I got mixed up. My bad.
No worries. We're here to kind of bumble our way through this, but this was a pretty massive undertaking. The show's got a lot of animatronics and puppets, and
True.
It was not
That makes
cheap
sense.
to produce.
Oh, I highly doubt that.
And there are a lot of
sure.
wheels that had to be set in motion to accommodate all the giant costumes and then all the animatronics and the puppets.
And the people that go in the costumes that don't even have voices. They don't, like, all the characters are voice actors, but they also have people in the puppets, if that makes sense.
Yeah, in a lot of ways it's like a live action cartoon in that regard.
Exactly. Which leads to our next point about why it got picked up in the first place.
Henson originally had the idea in 88, But it was seeing The Simpsons become very successful that I think was able to get him to finally pitch it and, find some people to pick it up. Because as I understand it, or kind of what I've inferred, is that The Simpsons took that typical family sitcom, but they were cartoons. So likewise, Dinosaurs takes that typical family sitcom and it's puppets.
Right. I just think with it being more fantasy related in nature, whether it's animated, whether it's puppets, or whether it's just about, extinct creatures altogether, you can get away with saying certain things and doing certain things as a show because it's not actual people doing it. So I feel like they saw The Simpsons doing it and then they were like, well, we have this idea that's very similar and could probably work. Let's just make dinosaurs. But it probably cost way more money than doing The Simpsons.
Maybe. Animation's not cheap either. There's a lot more to say about the show. I think we can get more into the origins of the show itself and the history of the show as we get into the podcast. But
I agree with
this
that.
being an episode by episode based podcast,
we have plenty of time.
We can talk about the characters as they're introduced in the show and talk about them a little bit and who voiced them and all that fun stuff. So what do you think, Shauna? You want to jump into the first episode?
Sure.
Honey, I'm home.
So the first person that we decided to feature as an actor in Dinosaurs. So what we want to do is kind of do a little bit like, maybe you don't know this about this person or whatever. Kind of highlighting the people who created this really interesting TV show. I don't know of any other show that has it's a more adult themed and is full length people in costumes. Does that make sense?
It does make sense. And
like,
rather than being
Big
like,
Bird and
some might say like the Muppets, it was a universal audience and it appealed to adults, but that was more of a subtle thing. Whereas Dinosaurs is just straight up like,
oh no, it appealed to anybody for sure.
Dinosaurs
But
straight up
they
is like
did try to
Married
make
with
it-
Children or something like that. It's
It's a tamer Married with Children, at least so far.
it's got that same satirical aspect of the 90s version of the typical 50s family.
Yeah, basically. Yeah, that's true. Anyway, nice tangent that we got here.
Yeah, that. So
I
what?
forgot where we're going with this.
Yeah, Sean and I decided we definitely want to at least dive into one of the actors, or like she said, one of the people who was involved in the production or the puppeteer.
Makeup
puppeteering.
artists, for instance,
Yeah.
could be interesting backstory to learn.
Yeah, this was by no means a small undertaking getting this show going, and especially thinking now that this was 30 years ago. Episode 1 was called The Mighty Megalosaurus, which is describing the main character, Earl, who happens to be...
A Megalosaurus.
Is he a megalomaniac? Yeah. The jury's still out on that one.
Maniac.
He is a maniac on the dance floor.
Oh my.
But he's definitely got, and Sean, I think you're right, like it's definitely like a Roseanne vibe as soon as you see this guy, because he's wearing the flannel shirt. He's kind of
Oh yeah, he's
a burly man.
What year did Rose? Okay, I'm gonna look this up.
Roseanne was late 80s.
Okay. Oh, he was totally supposed to be Dan.
Absolutely.
Oh man, he's Dan.
Yeah.
Earl is Dan or Dad from Married with Children.
Yeah, he's got a very Al Bundy vibe as well. Mm-hmm. So Earl is
a Dan stature, a Bundy vibe.
Yeah. But yeah, Earl's kind of, you get the idea very early on. He's the main character. And what's interesting, so you see him in the... Okay, first off, it starts with a dedication to Jim Henson. We should mention that. Because he had passed away the previous year. Mm-hmm. And this was still his studio that made this.
I don't know what necessarily would be considered his last actual brainchild, because I haven't looked up what that would be, what his actual last personal idea was that came to fruition. But this was the last idea that he was actually like alive to like put his 2 cents in the project, if that makes sense. So it made sense to open up with like, thank you for being a genius and creating this whole world of characters that we can now use to make dinosaurs. I love Jim Henson, by the way. I'm a big fan of his work, so I may stan a little bit every once in a while.
Oh yeah, Jim Henson's all like his work is absolutely wonderful. So it says here, I'm looking at the Wikipedia article, it does say that in the late 80s, Henson was trying to work on a feature film starring dinosaurs. And I guess, yeah, I don't think the film happened. And then later on, there's an article in the New Yorker saying that Henson was continuing to work on some sort of dinosaur project until the last months of his life. So in that one citation, potentially, they're saying that he was working on this show until like the final moment, potentially.
It's like one of its last little brainchild babies.
Yeah. Yeah, so the show starts with, and what's the character's name? Dang it. It's like Hand Up Me is his last name.
I think that's what his name is.
His last name's Hand Up Me, and that's, Howard Hand Up Me, who is a Walter Cronkite kind of guy, according to what I'm looking at here. And he's saying the world's about to end. There's a huge meteor heading for the Earth. And then immediately afterwards, someone hands him a sheet of paper. He's like,
it's kind of like, just in. No, it's not.
Yeah. And so then that's when we see Earl the first time. He's like,
oh, well, thank goodness.
Yeah. And then it just goes to the next segment. But that's when you meet Earl, and then you meet the next character who interrupts Earl's television viewing to.
Wait, are you talking about the baby?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, he's just being really obnoxious.
He wants Earl to tell him a story.
Yeah, and so Earl proceeds to tell him a quite happy tale about how him and his wife didn't really want their child and how they couldn't afford it, and was hoping that maybe a miracle whoopsie doodle might happen and they wouldn't have to worry about it anymore.
Right. That is true. You kind of do find that out.
Literally the entire story of...
Which with the giant egg, you could see
for the most part anyway. There's other
wrong.
little side bits.
Yeah.
But like...
This deals with a very typical kind of thing that a sitcom would deal with, but the whole episode is basically Earl's life going to shit.
Basically.
That's the setup for this whole show. And also, well, in the whole world going to shit.
It's true.
In a grander
Hell in a handbasket. If you will.
But yeah, the baby is also a Megalosaurus, and I believe the character is just called Baby. I don't think they ever
So yes,
give him
the
a name.
baby is, spoiler alert, happy ending, is the mighty Megalosaurus that will continue on the Megalosaurus legacy. So thank goodness they kept it, or whatever.
I think there's more to be found out about the baby, what I'm seeing, but you don't really know much in this episode other than it's called Baby, and one of
he's
the worst
really
parts.
obnoxious.
Right, he's super obnoxious.
I will say, like, so far, he's my least favorite character.
Oh, yeah.
So he's not, they aren't really
I like
redeeming
him.
the fact that the parents didn't really want the kid in the first place.
I think I've learned to embrace how annoying he is. He's like an almost like Gilbert Gottfried level, like annoying voice.
He's like if Stewie Griffin had Gilbert Godfrey's voice.
Oh, that's such a good and super repetitive, like where he just says the same thing over and over again until
appendages
Earl.
on the dad's face.
Yeah, he just bites his head one time straight up, and then
not cool kid.
then
Not
Earl
cool.
continues the story he was telling. That's
Yeah.
like the little
Oh yeah, by the way, we also didn't want you. Let's keep going with the story.
right. So the whole first episode is Earl telling the story to the kid because the kid asks like 10 times in a row, and finally Earl's like, "Fine, here's a story about how life was better before you came along." Pretty much.
So that was going to be my point, like my main parallel for how life was supposed to be portrayed as the dinosaurs of that era of the family unit of 60 million and 3 BC. And like, this is a family that's dealing with the fact that they have another mouth to feed and they need to keep a roof over their head and this, that, and the other thing. And how are they going to afford this kid? Which is exactly what's happening today, left, right, and center. So that was going to be my parallel and the fact that whole idea of like what are we going to do is the whole main plot of the first episode for the most part. because it's the dad telling his kid, "Oh yeah, it was chaos. We had no idea what we were going to do with you." Like, and that's the first episode.
Yeah.
In a nutshell. Like,
It really is.
interesting idea for a pilot.
Yeah, these episodes are pretty short. At least this first one was like 22 minutes maybe.
Probably.
It goes by pretty quick.
Gotta recognize those sponsors.
And I think it's more, it's a very much cookie cutter way to introduce all the characters, I guess, by having it be a story about Earl's Day. But yeah, Earl's Day is basically just the day from hell that led up to him finding out he was going to be a dad again.
Indeed.
So that when he goes into the little flashback sequence, that's when you see him coming through the door, and the very first thing that happens, he's too big to get through the door.
Right.
Got a little bit of like physical comedy from the get-go.
Yikes. Quite the butt.
And as he's doing that, his dinner escapes.
Yes.
His dinner was watching TV, and there's a commercial, which dinner is like this little kind of almost like a Fraggle looking character that the wife was cooking. The wife, which we haven't met yet. I guess you see her at the very beginning, right? Before Earl comes home. Her name's Fran. Food like goes into the living room and then sits in the chair and is watching
just
an
chillaxes.
infomercial about new pans that have a creature screen that keeps it from being able to get out, which is basically like a grate that you put over the pan so the thing can't get out of it.
Yeah, but it's interesting that they expand on that character and kind of make it more like a cheeky like pet that you could have for the family and not like your Sunday meal or something.
Which she does
So-
after the dinner escapes initially. She's like, I have a frozen dinner. And she pulls like this ice block
Like
out
a
of the
cinder
freezer.
block with a little like rodent looking thing that looks like the Muppet that's running away.
It's like just legs
But
and
it's
arms sticking out of
frozen
a block of ice.
in a big cinder block of ice, I guess. I don't know.
And Earl's like, no, not a frozen meal. He's complaining. He's talking down to his wife.
Yeah.
And he's telling her that she
Oh
needs
yeah,
to...
toxic masculinity is
that she
all
basically
up in
needs to
this
get everything
show.
together because
At least the first time.
he's about to get his paycheck.
Yes, they're like count down the minutes or something, right?
Yeah, he's like, I'm about to get my paycheck. And you know what that means?
5, 4,
Uh-huh.
3, 2, paycheck. Like I've never done that before.
It reminded me a lot of Christmas Vacation when Chevy Chase is making this huge deal out of his bonus. And you're like, no one really talks about it that much. I would hope not. But it's just like the whole family is waiting to find out what his Christmas bonus is, that whole movie. And that's kind of what you think Earl's setting up this to be. He's like, we're going to get that I'm going to get my paycheck. And then he starts talking about how he's going to buy was it a 90-inch television?
Yes, that was his dream.
It was his
90-inch
dream, a
TV.
90-inch television. A real man of the world, that Earl.
Was it Earl Sneed Sinclair?
Earl Sneed Sinclair, who is voiced by Stuart Pankin. I don't know if I know that guy. Yeah. Oh, I guess he was in Curb Your Enthusiasm as Ben Heineman in an episode. Stuart Pankin, yeah, he played an Orthodox Jew in an episode of Curb. So I can only imagine there was some sort of really
interesting tidbit we got to know
awkward moment that happened between him and Larry David. You know?
this.
I'm just guessing. I've probably actually
Any-
seen that because I've watched most of the show. But yeah, so that's the character Earl.
So Earl, after learning about the excellent news that the world probably won't end, he gets up to get to work, which is kind of like the other main plot of the storyline.
Yeah. Like dinner gets away, and I think that's sort of like how the episode ends. Like dinner gets away. Oh yeah, and you meet his other two kids, Charlene and Robbie,
Yes.
and
That's true.
Charlene's trying to get him to give her money for a sweater, and he's like basically no in some snide way.
You don't need it.
Yeah,
Basically.
something along those lines. And then the son comes home, and he's like, his report card's not great. And oh yeah, they both show their report card, and Charlene's report card's good, right? And then Robbie's is bad, but they're saying that he's not focusing at school, and he's not applying himself, right?
Correct.
And he's
But he
like,
actually is smart, but he doesn't want the other kids to know that.
yeah, he doesn't want the expensive tutoring that his mother suggests, which would be the exact cost of Earl's TV. He's like, Dad, I don't want people to know that I am talented. Essentially, he says that. So typical teen.
Yep.
He's 14 and Charlene's 12. That's what I found.
Oh. Interesting. I did not find that
That's what I have
information.
in my notes here. Because he's like essentially saying that the kids are about to leave.
Yeah, as far as the actual teens go of the family, I get a very Family Matters vibe. Like, I see Robbie as being like Eddie Winslow, and Fran is more like Laura Winslow.
I can see that.
And like Stewie isn't like little random baby that lives with their aunt Rachel.
Mm-hmm.
I guess
Aunt
he
Rachel.
lives with their Aunt Rachel because he's her baby. So that makes sense. But I digress. Like, that's the baby
Yeah.
of like the modern 90s sitcom of like the actual family. But the parents, again, are more like Roseanne or Married with Children. You dig?
I could definitely see that. I think one thing that
Those are my comparisons.
I really like
anyway.
this burn that Fran made on Earl, because, you know, he's kind of talking down to her, being shitty with her, and he's like, I'm the king. What does he say? The Megalosaurus is the king of the dinosaurs.
Mm-hmm.
And Fran says, no, that's not true. The T-Rex is the king of the dinosaurs. He's like, how do you know? She's like, I dated one in high school.
That's how you know it's good. That's how you know it's good about y'all.
Yeah, total bird. High school bird.
Apparently, there is a character named Roy Danger who is a Tyrannosaurus Rex. So I wonder if he ends up being her long lost
I don't know.
lover or some sort of thing.
One thing I thought we should mention about the son also is like, he's like, I'm not that smart, but I do wonder why are we counting the years backwards? Like, what's the deal with that? So I think that's like kind of a fun little gag too, based on this whole 60 million and 3 timeline that this takes place. And I also have written down multiple times that the baby dinosaur looks like Bill Barr, which I think was trending on the internet a couple months ago. So that's probably why I keep
Is
thinking
it the
that.
bottle cap glasses? that
It's
he's got?
kind of, yeah. You just gotta look it up.
He does have a very
Hold
baby-shaped head.
I'm gonna actually
though,
look
too.
this up for you, because I think you should see it and tell me if you agree.
Exactly. No, that's exactly what I was thinking. It's the bottle cap glasses that he's got, the circle ones.
Yeah.
Oh my god, that's hilarious.
Even the shape of his mouth.
I love it.
Oh, there's somebody
my
here, they
god,
flipped
no,
the
that
image,
one
so
is
it's
the
more.
side. Oh my god, that's amazing. I really wish he was wearing a yellow button down. To
Probably
really
does
add
sometimes.
to the flair. If they ever did a live action dinosaurs, he could really find a good gig. You know, like he should really look into that probably.
So occasionally it'll cut back to a like segment of the kid being like, and then what happened next to the baby? And then, you know, Earl will be like, talk to him, and then the baby will do the repetitive thing that he does. He'll be like, was I there? Was I there? Was I there? Or that was what he asks about when Earl goes to work. Because the baby wants to hear about himself. That's all he really cares about in the story. He's a lot like
True.
Earl in baby form.
Yeah, Megalosaurus do what Megalosaurus do.
Got that Megalosaurus complex.
Yeah, that mega complex.
Am I in the story yet?
I'm getting to you.
What happened next?
I went to work.
Why?
Because your mother makes me.
Am I at work?
No.
Am I at work?
No.
Am I at work?
Yes. Yes.
No, I'm not.
But then the episode moves on to Earl actually, you know, he's at work. It's the next day after his whole dinner getting away the night before, and him thinking things are pretty bad, but little does he know, it's going to be a bad day at the office.
Indeed.
So do you remember what he does for a living, right?
Oh yeah, he's a tree pusher.
He's a tree pusher, which I wonder, and I just thought of this, is it supposed to be like a pencil pusher, like an office job? I never really thought of that until this moment.
So my brain went to they need to make room to drill for oil, and his boss's name is BP Richfield. So it's like an oil company with
Right,
rich
which
oil
you
fields.
just figured that out earlier this evening, which I hadn't thought about that.
It's all about like trying to make way for oil. So he's pushing over all the trees to make way for, I'm guessing, oil. I don't know for sure, I guess. But very rich fields indeed, I would imagine.
But the beginning part of his workday was the second time where we get the impression that this whole I got to get this picture off the screen.
It's probably wise.
We get the impression that the domestication of the dinosaur family, so to speak, was a very recent thing because you keep getting references to the old way.
Yeah. So apparently it was a lot more common for dinosaurs to just eat their young.
As a means to deal with having too many offspring.
Basically. Good solid dose of cannibalism.
And sometimes kill their wives too. But then at that time, I guess it was just their mates, but they weren't calling them wives.
I guess. I mean, they are animals. But like, we are watching animals act like humans.
Although
humans are animals, but like, let's not get into that. But like,
oh yeah, we make an appearance in this episode.
Oh, it's true. That's weird.
Which I wonder if it's a thing that happens in multiple episodes. I guess we'll find out soon.
Agreed. That's another talking point.
Probably.
I don't know where we're going with that.
But for all his shittiness, because Earl's kind of a shitbag, you kind of get that idea of him as a character.
At least in the first episode.
Yeah.
I'm going to give
him
the benefit of the doubt
be,
because we have 65 episodes, so I really hope he's not a dirtbag for the whole time.
Well, he wants to be a family man, and I guess in these dinosaur times, that's sort of a brave thing. In some way, because it's like not completely
because you're not eating your children,
right? And of course we find that out, but that's when we meet his friend. And you don't actually ever, I don't think you ever actually hear his name spoken. Maybe you do, but
I don't think you do. But I mean, he's a recurring character. He's in a majority of the episodes that I found. I know his first name's Roy.
Oh, it's Roy. That's right.
I don't remember his last name though.
That's cool. We just
Roy Danger?
Roy Danger. He is I can't tell if he's a T-Rex. He's got the short arms.
My character list that I have, I searched what dinosaur performers played BP Richfield, and so I got other characters that popped up along with the person who played BP Richfield. And Roy Danger Hess
who is a T-Rex.
Is a T-Rex, according to this. BP Richfield is a Styracosaurus.
Styracosaurus.
Interesting.
B.P. Richfield was a character that we definitely wanted to focus on in this episode because he's a pretty cool character, and that voice, it was like, who is that? Like, I know that voice, and that voice is very, like, for the character, it is just perfect for that character.
Oh, yeah. He does a very good job.
Sinclair, you dog. 20 years you work here, I never would have figured you had it in you to come in here and take me on. But take me on you do, mano a mano, one-on-one. That's guts ball, Sinclair. I like a guy who plays guts ball. Like it.
The person who voices Mr. Richfield is Sherman Hemsley, and he is the wonderful performer who we decided we would feature in our first episode as a little like backstory, sort of fun tidbit of information.
Well, first off, let's talk about him as this character. So this character is the boss, and he's very imposing because Roy convinces Earl, or like gets Earl into a frenzy about how he needs to ask for a raise. And so Earl's like, I guess I'm going to do it. And they're like, but his teeth are so big, talking about his teeth being large. So they're literally afraid of the boss in a physical sense.
Yeah, I mean, the guy goes into his office just like very decidingly that he needs to have more, like he deserves more money and he should have more money. And he goes into that office very confident, and he looks up and he's just instantly terrified.
This character like barely fits in the room, and he's like hitting the wall because he's pissed off, and it's like
shaking the whole building.
And like the characters, the other employees that are standing outside are like jumping up and being scared by the sounds he's making.
Indeed.
But yeah, why not? Let's talk about Sherman Hemsley a little bit. We did a little bit of research.
Sure. So we have some fun facts about Mr. Hemsley. He was born in 1938 and passed away in 2012.
And of course, what he's most known for
is George Jefferson from The Jeffersons, which was a spin-off TV show from All in the Family. He would have started the show sooner, but he decided that he would rather finish out his role in the musical Burley in the early 1970s. And if you look him up on Spotify, a song from that musical is the only thing you will find.
For Sherman Hemsley, yeah. And it's pretty good. I like it.
Yeah, I thought it was a nice jazzy tune. I dug it for sure.
He says a swear word in it. I thought that was cool.
Yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly.
And looking up that play looks really interesting. I kind of want to learn a little bit more about it. It kind of sounds like he would have been more prominently in the show. I think the writer of the show wanted the character George Jefferson, played by Sherman Hemsley, to exist in the show. And I from the beginning, but that means they really wanted him to play that character because they waited 2 years to bring the character in instead of hiring another actor. So
yeah, that's some dedication as far as the film company goes. It's not a film, that's why I'm blanking. It would be the TV company, I guess.
In a way, it's kind of funny though when you think about it, because Sherman Hemsley's character George Jefferson is a TV dad, a TV husband.
That's true.
So in a way, he did inspire Earl's character.
And yeah, I would agree with you there. But now he's playing this big boss man who's just like, how dare you want a family?
Yeah, how dare you want to raise? How dare you want a family?
He can't figure out why this employee chose to have a family, so why does he have to support that guy's choice? Which is a lot like today.
It definitely seems like, and from what my research, that he kind of got typecast after doing the George Jefferson character. His booming voice and his mannerisms and stuff. And so I guess most of his roles after that were pretty much like him as George Jefferson doing, another role or reprising his role on other TV series. And I think they even there was a musical of the Jeffersons at one point, like a Broadway musical.
He does a reprise. I don't know if it's a Broadway musical. I did not find that information, but he does reprise his role in a traveling show called The Real Live Jeffersons.
Oh.
In the 1990s. So.
Okay, so they tried to bring it back in the 90s. I'm not sure how.
They tried to bring it back on the road. Real Live Jeffersons.
I actually kind of want to look up the Jeffersons and watch some of that. I used to watch that when I was a kid, and I really liked it.
Some sort of iteration of his character also appears in The Fresh Prince of Bel-Air.
Oh, right. He's a judge, right?
Yes, but he has the same name as... I'm pretty sure he's like Judge Jefferson or something like that, if I remember correctly.
That'd be cool to look up, too. I want to see him in Fresh Prince. So,
I would totally watch that. I wonder if he kind of got recognized by the show because of his iconic role already in the Jeffersons, but also because he's from Philadelphia.
Born and raised?
Mm-hmm. On the playground is where he spent most of his days.
Yeah, there's definitely a Philly connection there, too, so very interesting stuff. But yeah, Sherman Hemsley, a really cool character, character actor, I should say, right? Kind of, if he plays that character.
I suppose. I can agree with you there.
But also a really fascinating person, looking up his personal life, there's really nothing to find. He was very, very reclusive.
He was a very private person, and when he passed away, he had no children and no wife or significant other or anything like that, at least that we know of. And so he left his estate to his roommate, and I wrote her name down. Oh, her name was Flora Enchinton, I think is how you say her last name.
Flora Isaiah Enchinton, yeah.
Enchinton, yes. She received his estate, essentially. Someone came out of the woodwork, basically, and decided, no, I'm his brother. I deserve his estate. And because there was a legal battle over all of this for months at a time, poor Mr. Hemsley couldn't even be buried. And that makes me really sad, because this guy just seemed like a sweet, kind man who loved jazz, and that was his hobby. But then he liked jazz and prog rock.
Yeah, he was a big fan of
real chill dude.
I love that he's a big fan of
who just kept to himself and minded his own damn business, and I don't fault him for that. And now people are coming out of nowhere saying, "Oh, this suddenly I care about this person because they're dead, and now I want their money." Fuck right off.
Yeah. Well, luckily that guy didn't win out.
Yes.
I don't know if they did a DNA test or anything. somehow it got thrown out.
So on my brother's birthday in 2012, November 9th, Mr. Hemsley was finally put to rest, and he got the full military funeral because that man was an Air Force veteran.
That's right.
And a veteran of the U.S. Postal Service.
In fact, I think he dropped out of high school to join the military, and then...
Yes, and he worked at the Postal Service by day, and then he went to acting classes by night, worked his way through acting school, and now we know him as George Jefferson and BP Richfield.
BP Richfield, which is just such a cool character. I mean, he's annoying in his own way, but that voice is just so cool.
He's effective. He's an effective
Very
character. I don't know if I would call him a cool character just for what he represents, but he's very effective, and I can appreciate an effective character for sure.
So anyway, the boss, as we said, is not, BP is not hearing it about this raise, especially the part when Earl tries to appeal to his sensitivities of like, well, I have family. And he's like, why is that my fault that you decided to have a family? Basically, what Richfield does is he's like, you got guts, essentially. Coming in here, throwing down this ultimatum. And he just frames it in such a way that it's like Earl's basically like telling him, give me a raise or I'm leaving. And supposedly he's worked there several years because Richfield does say, after all these years, it's going to be sad. I'm sad to see you go. And he essentially tricks Earl into quitting.
Yeah.
Like intimidates / tricks him into quitting.
Oh, yeah. It's definitely abuse of power.
Earl's just like, what am I supposed to do? He's like, I don't know. And
good luck taking care of that family.
And then he's like, you should thank me for giving you the strength to come in here and talk to, or something along those lines. And Earl's like, what? And he's like, thank me. Earl ends up.
Oh yeah, this
he ends
dude
up thanking
is the
Richfield.
ultimate abuser for sure.
So for me, this character in particular was I kind of feel that's representative of like just capitalism in general, kind of screwing over the little people that are making all the cogs in the machine run and are the whole reason that the money exists in the first place, that the capitalism is churning out for this person. So
that's why whenever we started looking up some backstory on Sherman Hemsley, and then I looked into what the actual name of the boss's name was, because we just kept calling him boss while we were talking about the episode. And then we looked up the name of the boss, and we realized it was BP Richfield. And I'm like, oh my god, this is like just an oil company, basically. Like, and this oil company, of course, isn't going to give a raise to some random employee's family. I don't know. Like, just so aligns so well with today.
So, Earl's having a shitty day. He doesn't have a job no more. And the next scene is him coming home and being a total dick to his wife.
Yep.
Even though she grabs a beer for him out of the fridge, he doesn't have to go to the fridge himself and get the beer. God forbid.
Yeah.
She goes to the fridge for
Roseanne
him.
went to get him his beer.
That's true. And when she opens up the fridge, like you see all the like arms and legs sticking out of creatures that want to escape.
Yeah, of all the future dinners that need the screen from the pot that we talked about earlier.
Which, if Earl loved his wife, he would buy for her, according to Fran.
Yeah, basically. Certainly not the 90-inch big screen TV.
Basically, Earl's like, I had a bad day. And she's like, well, I still think you should ask me about my day first. And he's like, I don't give a damn about what happened in your day. Nothing that happened in your day is going to affect me at all, pretty much.
Oh, contraire.
So what's the worst possible, well, one of the worst possible things that could happen for his day?
He finds out he's gonna have another baby.
He's gonna have another baby, and that's kind of
baby.
the moment that you could just see him break.
Right. And leads him to, like, kind of hoping that nature might take his course another way, like suggesting maybe there's not anything in there. And then they shine the egg up to the light, and it's, like, clearly actively sucking on its thumb and, like, goofing around in its little sphere, basically.
Yeah, it's probably my favorite little gag in the whole episode is this. You know, the soul of the baby just sitting there sucking its thumb, and then it looks towards, you see the shadow like wave.
It's such a weird projector screen situation that, like, you can only see a silhouette, but you can also kind of see the weird being that's supposed to be in there. And it's like, you have to watch the episode. It's very strange.
It's really funny.
It's hilarious.
But yeah, Earl's pissed. He's 43 years old. That's how we find out his age.
And he hasn't ever been to Europe. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
Even though they're supposed to be living on Pangea, so where the heck is Europe anyway? What is Europe?
What is Europe?
What are borders?
I was really confused about that. It does say it's supposed to be in Pangea.
Yeah,
according to
any synopsis you find for this show, they live on Pangea, so where's Europe? Do they have Europe? Who knows?
So at this point, he has a little brief altercation with his kids. You know, he's pissed at them. He's pissed at his wife. He ends up screaming at Robbie, just roaring in his face. Like, basically, Earl's like, oh no, Robbie says, by the time this baby leaves the house, you're at the end of your life expectancy. That's what he says.
Oh, yeah. Okay, kid. You don't have to be a dick about it.
So 43 to, whatever. Yeah, Earl's going to be in his 60s. And
True.
So at this point, Earl has what I can only guess is supposed to be like a dinosaur equivalent of a midlife crisis,
Yes, that's what I would describe it.
where he goes back to the wilderness.
Yeah, he runs away from his family. And mind you, this is still a story he's telling his baby that he didn't want. So, this is all the story that's being told.
He's like, I was depressed that you were coming into my life, so I returned to the
You were
wilderness.
going to ruin my life, so I ran away because I'm a man.
And I wrote down like a little bit about this part, but basically Earl's just wallowing in his own sorrow, and he feels like his whole family is the reason he got fired. You know, he's blaming everything on them. He's not taking
He
any
wouldn't
personal
have went and asked
responsibility.
for a raise if he didn't feel pressure from having family ties or whatever.
But he's basically, he's out in the wilderness, and he's looking at the ground. He's like, the ground is my bed, the rocks are my mattress, and the freezing cold is my blanket.
Sounds terrible.
And he doesn't lay down for very long.
If I ran away from home, I'd be like, okay, I need to find a good, nice bed in a hotel and figure this out. And not be laying in the woods. I guess that's the difference between me and dinosaurs. I don't know.
So while he's out in the wilderness, he sees a creature. Turns out that's his food.
That was the dinner from earlier in the episode, basically, that escaped from the house. And it wouldn't have escaped had they bought the aforementioned infomercial screens.
Creature screens.
Creature screens. Exciting stuff.
And he's like, what are you doing out here, to his food. And the food's like, oh, by the way, my name's Arthur. Like, they get to know each other. And Arthur's like, I used to live here in a tree, but now the tree's gone and my whole family's gone. And Earl just kind of like looks over to oops. He gives one of those looks like he's probably the one that
knocked that tree over. And now he was about to eat this person character rather, whatever, that lived in that tree as well. So at insult to injury, really.
Yeah, and so they start talking. Then Earl's like, well, you're lucky you don't have to worry about your family anymore. My family got me fired.
Oh my
pretty
God,
much.
what a dick.
And then he just starts like roaring and throwing a fit, and basically does the equivalent of a dude punching his hand through a wall. He knocks a tree over in his rage and reveals to Arthur that Earl probably was the one that knocked over his family's home.
Yikes.
That's when Arthur tells Earl how he views family, and then Earl takes his own perception of that.
Correct. And decides that he's going to keep the baby, I guess.
Yeah, so Arthur basically is like, I miss my family. Family's everything when you're home. Yeah, I actually don't remember exactly what the conversation, but it was a very heartwarming thing about, you're always welcome at home with your family and
right,
all this stuff. And then Earl's like, wait a minute, no matter what, I'm always the king of my own house.
Yeah.
And that's when Earl starts looking at his family as like his subjects, I guess, to make himself feel better in that moment.
Whatever.
But Arthur's really depressed, and he's like, you might as well just eat me because I'm sad, and you'd be doing us both a favor.
That's so sad. Like, I just want to give Arthur a great big hug and like take him in as my own family.
But Earl can't do it.
I mean, I want to. I'll love Arthur.
Well, Earl won't eat him.
Well, that's good. Or maybe not.
So you see a little bit of you're like, maybe Earl's got some good in him after all. And, as he's like, I can't do it, get out of here. And Arthur said, I won't forget. And then as soon as like Arthur runs away, Earl's like, "Gah! There's no ketchup." He basically was yelling like the only reason he let the character go or let Arthur go was because he didn't have any ketchup, which I thought was kind of funny.
Oh, I did not make that note, so I appreciate your take on that.
I literally have written here, Earl is upset there's no ketchup.
I'm glad we were able to fit that into the story for the viewers.
But at that point,
listeners.
You get the impression that Earl kind of wants to go back home, and that's when he sees some weird-looking thing laying on the ground.
And I don't remember this part at all. I don't think I wrote anything.
It's like
down
another
about
one of
this.
those, like, it looks like a block of ice or something, but it's got little legs sticking out, and it's like, that looks like Fran's Mastodon surprise. So I guess it's supposed to be like a huge mastodon for scale in this thing. And it's literally on a string, and Fran's pulling it to lure Earl back home.
Okay, no, I remember that now. Okay.
And they end up holding hands because she wants him to come home. And it's kind of cute little dinosaur moment. And she promised him
even though he
chocolate
was a dick
hippo
to her
cake.
the entire episode.
Yeah.
Like, even when she was like, hey, look at this thing I brought into the world. Hooray. He was all like, fuck this. I'm going to go spend a night in nature and possibly never come home. But thank goodness I found dinner and decided to come home. I don't have a good impression of Earl Sneed Sinclair.
Me neither. And I don't know what
I'm hoping
I don't
that
know what
it
Fran sees in him.
evolves. I'm hoping that it evolves a bit. I mean, I felt the same way. We only watched like maybe a couple episodes of Married with Children. Whenever we saw it was on Hulu. I couldn't watch anymore after that. I could not handle fucking Ed Bundy being an asshole.
Ed Bundy.
What is his name?
Al Bundy.
Oh, whatever.
Ed Bundy's a serial murderer.
I don't. Fuck. Who cares? I don't know. It was an honest mistake.
Oh no, that's Ted
It
Bundy.
was. Yeah. He was. I believe he was killed on my birthday.
Oh, okay.
Exciting.
Executed or whatever.
Yeah.
Cool.
Or no. Sorry. This is what he has the same birthday as me.
Oh, okay. Yeah, that's
Not the same
Very
year, but the
different thing.
same day.
I guess leaving the world and going or joining the world, maybe there are similarities there.
I don't know what year he was born, but it was the same day.
The year of the murderer.
The year of the the sign of the Sagittarius. That's all I know. Anyway, I could only watch a couple episodes of Married with Children before I was like, I don't give a shit about this asshole to watch another episode. I don't care if he becomes more redeemable. He's just annoying. And I imagine it will take quite some time for him to ever become redeemable. And in the meantime, the rest of the characters aren't that interesting to begin with. So, like, I like Earl's family overall much better than Al's, personally. I think they're more interesting. But if Earl doesn't become much more interesting, I don't know how much fun the whole podcast is going to be for me. Because I'm just going to eventually be like, I don't care about these people or these dinos. But hopefully that doesn't happen. Hopefully they make him a more well-rounded individual and that sort of thing.
I mean, I hope so. They got 4 seasons to do it, and there's
right.
a lot of episodes.
I agree. I'm giving it the benefit of the doubt. I'm just explaining my personal current opinion about Earl Sinclair.
Earl Sinclair. The guy who wrote The Jungle? No, that's Upton Sinclair.
Yes.
So the next scene is Earl's he got the chocolate hippo cake at home.
Exciting.
Next
times.
day, he's back at work. It was kind of weird. He's like, wait, what's he doing back at work? He got fired. But he's like, I'm here to see if there's any sort of severance pay.
Thoughts and prayers, Mr. Earl. Do your best.
And that's when they bring like immediate like turnaround. Maybe some more time has elapsed. I don't know. But the dinner is the boss's assistant now, Arthur.
Right. I forgot about that.
Earl's like, oh, you're the boss's assistant now, and Richfield's like, yeah, he's a perfect assistant. No family, never goes anywhere. You just stay here.
Maybe that's why I tuned that part out of my brain, because now I just got really, really sad. And I really just want to give Arthur a great big hug.
And yeah, Richfield just goes, get back to work.
Oh.
He basically like Earl's like, can I get some severance? And Richfield's just like, get back to work, Sinclair. And turns out Arthur got him his job back and got him an imperceptible raise.
Exciting.
Which, back to that capitalism. Yeah. He's like, how much of a raise did you give him? Richfield was asking Arthur, and Arthur's like, imperceptible. And so Earl goes home with
his job back.
his check or his pay stub or whatever, and he's like, Fran, look at this. What do you see there? That is an imperceptible raise. Like, notice anything imperceptible here? But yeah, he got his job back.
She's pretty snarky with him, though, and I appreciate that.
And that's when Earl comes out and says why he wants his family. It's because he wants to be king of his house.
You see, Fran, I learned something during my time in the woods. No matter how low you are in this world, as long as you have a family to come home to, well, they're lower.
And when he was out in the wilderness, he realized no matter how low you feel, if you got a family, they're lower than you.
Yikes.
That's exactly what he says.
One thing I have written down that we haven't mentioned is the fact that for Fran, like, she just sort of like, or I don't know what you want to call it, like birthed an egg, I guess would be the right term. And I just find it interesting that, like, if they were to decide, heaven forbid, that they weren't going to keep the baby, like, it wouldn't even be something where, like, it's a intrusive procedure on Fran's part. It's already just an egg.
Well, remember the very first thing
So-
Earl says when he looks at it is, that better be dinner. So with maybe the primitive dinosaur approach of frying that thing up.
I guess that's true. Oh dear. I mean, we already mentioned the cannibalism at its finest.
But by the time you see the silhouette of the baby inside of it, you're like, that's not a yolk.
Yeah, like, yeah, we can't do that. Sorry. This is a family show, first of all. But there's a family show, like, I guess that was kind of my point of why I wrote it down, was like, this was definitely something they were kind of pondering in so many words, but, like, not ever following through with it. And again, this was the story that they were trying to tell this baby. Oh man, it all comes back to that for me, because I just think that's such a weird premise for a first episode.
I do too. And that's really kind of the end of the episode anyway. Like, there's not a whole lot more other than, well, the big moment at the end is the egg cracks.
Hooray!
Yeah.
And the baby appears weird.
The baby appears, and immediately you can just kind of tell the baby's like, I'm going to be the center of attention now. And he's just basically telling her all that, like, to his face, like, your life is ruined, and I'm intentionally doing it.
Hi, I'm the baby, brand new, just out. Gotta love me. Come on, gotta love me.
Because the baby's born being able to talk and ask questions and all that, presumably because it could hear everything through its shell. And
Good point.
That's basically the end of the episode until, we get the little mammal, or, the primate appearance at the end where there's some sort of cave people looking, and it looks like they're creating the wheel, but then he smashes it on his head, and it turns into a hula hoop when he does that.
I remember it becoming a hula hoop, but I wasn't contemplating what it was ahead of time. I just saw it being a hula hoop. I'm like, whoa, cave people, and that's what I focused on.
Well, it's all done very, like, it's dumb comedy, there's nothing to be seen there other than cave people acting really dumb. But basically, they're like, I can't remember which character asked, like, if they need to be worried about the humans or something in the dinosaur, and Earl's just like, you and your brother and sister, are dinosaurs, and dinosaurs will rule forever. And that's the last line.
Dun, dun, dun.
So this episode's all about the foreshadowing, like tons of foreshadowing.
For sure. I appreciate the fact
very
that
dark
it's
humor.
Like, oh man, it's a lot of dark topics throughout, for sure, I would say. And just his treatment of his family is not so hot, so. Lots of dark material to expand upon for 60 some more episodes.
Yeah, I'm really wondering where this is going to go. Obviously, there's going to be
me too.
episodes that are like, I would wonder if there's going to be episodes that are like topical, like some sort of like topic, like Golden Girls did. The one
like
Rose thought
they tried to address the AIDS epidemic. They tried to address homelessness in just one episode, because that's how long it takes to solve
queer people. That's
issues.
A couple of episodes.
Yeah, there's
ageism,
at least
sexism.
3 or 4. Because there was that one episode where that man dated Blanche and dressed as a woman for a while.
That's true.
And that sort of thing. Anyway, I don't know where
I don't know.
I'm
kind of curious to see what will be revealed in this. Supposedly, there's a lot of adult humor in it, and like thinly veiled ways they can get across like more offensive things.
Correct.
So in a way, it is subversive. There is some stuff that will fly over a kid's head in this show. And I mean, I feel like it's still intended to be a family show, but it's not just for kids. It's for all you old
the
dinosaurs.
parents can watch along and be like, oh, this is good. I like this.
And the
they're
baby
already used to this sort of show already.
Yeah, I was surprised the baby didn't say its most popular line at all in the first episode, which I'm not even going to mention.
No, because I don't even know what it is.
But I have a feeling there's going to have to be a count for that line when it does finally show up. But I'm doing my own foreshadowing here, all right, about our podcast.
I am less familiar with the show, I think, than Jeremy is, because I remember watching it from time to time, but I don't think I avidly watched it week to week when it first came out, because I was like I was 3 when it first aired, so like it wouldn't have even dawned on me what I was really watching at the time. I wasn't until like I was maybe 6 or 7. I remember they had like little action figures at McDonald's in their Happy Meals, and that's why I recognized who they were.
I wonder if you
so
could find some.
Like, I know I've seen episodes
merch
of this show before, but they're definitely sporadic, and like I don't know how it progresses, like the show progresses throughout the whole 4 seasons or anything like that.
Well, we're gonna find out.
I don't know how much he knows overall either, but I know he's seen more of it than I
know
have.
about how it ends. I don't know.
So
a
little
lot in the middle.
precursor for the rest of what to expect, I think.
Right, we're on this ride
pretty
together.
brand
I think
new.
Sean hasn't rode the Dinosaurs coaster as many times as I have. Maybe not at all.
Oh my god, if there's a coaster, I want to ride it. Can we go find a Dinosaurs coaster?
I mean, if it could be OSHA approved after 63 or 60 million in 3 years, I'm down.
Challenge accepted.
60 million 2024. I don't know.
Whatever.
Fuck it. But I don't know. I mean, I feel like we've kind of talked about everything we want to talk about. Was there anything else you wanted to mention about this episode or this series in general?
Not at the moment, no.
Cool. Well, hey, definitely do yourself a favor. Look up that Sherman Hemsley song on Spotify. It's pretty cool. It's a song from the musical he was in. And
Pearlie. Purlie. Pearlie.
Yeah, maybe do a little bit of research about it. It seems like, I mean, I don't know much about it, but it seems like really interesting play. And yeah, check out Dinosaurs. Join us next time when we do episode 2, and we once again try to take this show from the past, from the very distant past,
and bring it into the future.
Hell yeah. Thanks for listening. I once again am Jeremy.
And Shauna. Don't go extinct.
That was a good story, especially me.
Yep, that's the way you came into this world. And someday it will all belong to you, because you and your brother and your sister were all born dinosaurs. And dinosaurs rule the world. And we're going to rule the world forever.